today I'd like to concentrate this entire video on the whole area of emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence is important. In fact, I don't know who it was, but somebody said that if you added the intelligence quotient and your emotional intelligence quotient together, then that can equal at their maxima to a high level of success. And if you think about our success being not a solitary success, if we have to, and not all of us do, but most of us do, have to interact with others, we have to influence others in order to get things done, whether it's business or technical, whatever it happens to be, influence, then as soon as we're outside of that small isolated room, then we need to be able to influence others. And in order to do that, and to do it really, really well, we need to raise our game in terms of our emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? Let's use a model which will perhaps pop up onto the screen for you. And in this model, if you look at the vertical scale on the left, we have something which is called self. And then if you look again on the vertical scale on the right hand side, something which is about self and others, about relationships with other people. And then if you look at the horizontal dimensions, you have the top one, which is about awareness, and the one at the bottom along the horizontal, which is about managing or management. So if you put those vertical scales and the horizontal ones together, in the top left you end up with self-awareness. In the bottom left you end up with self-management. In the top right you've got self and others, awareness of, so awareness of the relationships, the dynamics of those relationships and how they work. And then in the bottom right hand corner you've then got the management of those relationships, of those others. And what we see from that is if we can develop as individuals, what ultimately happens is we get better at influencing others in that bottom right hand quadrant, and you'll see there the word impact. It's the influence, the impact that we have on others, the stakeholders, the important people around us who enable us to achieve, who enable us to create what we need to create, whether it's our career, whether it's our business, whether it's our area of responsibility, whether it's whatever it happens to be. All of those things that involve other people, we can grow that. So how do we do it? In the natural way of things, there is an evolution that just happens. It's part of our life journey. So some of us are born with a high level of self-awareness, others are pretty bad at it. We know who they are. They tend to be anachronistic, they operate in very odd ways, but perhaps sometimes have rather too much character. So we have a lot of people in that sort of lacking self-awareness box. But as we develop, probably we've found that our level of self-awareness has raised. Often that has to do with age, but it also has to do with experience, having relationships, perhaps having families and so forth, quite challenging experiences, losing jobs, all of that stuff. Life experience tends to shape us a bit, and with a bit of luck we learn and grow from those rather than retrench and become isolated from those experiences. So that is a life journey. So we can move from the top left to the bottom left and begin, when we see those and understand ourselves better, the choices available to us enable us to manage those choices and to take the paths which lead to us behaving in different ways. So in other words, it's behaviours will follow the thoughts that we have. So we have choices, we exercise those choices, we experiment with those new choices by self-managing, and as we self-manage, we are still hopefully aware, noticing those changes, seeing whether they work or not, and growing through that experience. But that's still very much about us. So the other process that tends to start at about the same time, sometimes follow, is that as we become more aware of ourselves, we tend to get more aware about other people. Not all of us, but many of us will get more aware about other people. And often what we do is to make judgments. In other words, we sort of recognise that we've suddenly got this enthusiasm at university for learning, or we've suddenly got this enthusiasm. We perhaps leave college and we go into management, and we think it's about power and influence and money and things like that. But we have these thoughts, this awareness of the changes in ourselves, and many of us, many of the time, will assume that other people get the same stuff, that they're motivated by the same things, by fitness or by sport or by money or by influence or by power. And that isn't the case. It might be pretty much the case within specific cultures. You can think about politics, for example, where you may see particular traits in abundance about the need for self-promotion and power over others. But generally speaking, that level of awareness of others will lead to understandings, will lead to judgments to start off with. But when we get those judgments wrong, if we're lucky, we'll get feedback, sometimes painful feedback, which says, well, hold on, it's not like that. It's not about money. I am here, I want to have children, I want to develop a family. It's not just about status and materialism. So it's learning from that feedback. As we get better at that top right-hand quadrant, that's that learning about others, so we can begin to know how to influence, how to manage our interactions with others in order to help them perform and to grow and to impact on those other people. And the key to this whole process, we can wait for life to happen in order to grow through this, in order to have the impact and the influence we want on other people, or we can really take charge of it, to manage it. And the absolute key, and something which is not normally stressed too well in this model very often, and I want to stress it now, is that link, that feedback link. Because awareness we can do, we can read stuff, we can talk to people, we can get some therapy or counselling or whatever it is, we can get some coaching, we can get mentoring, we can do all of that, but the quality of feedback that we get is what will really determine the speed at which we can accelerate our life learning rather than waiting for life to happen. So the feedback then means we have to listen to the feedback. That should give us some choices about what we do, whether we do some more research, whether we behave differently, whether we think differently, and then by observation seeing whether that has an impact. One thing that's very important about asking for feedback is not to be general. You know, how was I? How did I do? Is not going to cut it. We need to be asking for specific feedback. That means the feedback will be looking for particular context, particular detail for a specific situation. I'll give you an example. So maybe you've been in a meeting. Maybe there's been a situation with someone in the meeting, something not going quite well, perhaps a slightly bit of antagonism or something going on, which had started from something that you might have said. You've got the awareness. You might not want to do anything in the meeting at the time. You may choose to take that person to one side afterwards and have a word and say, I'm sorry, I got the feeling that, and then asking for, when I said that, what was it that triggered your reaction, or how could I have done that better? You can, of course, also ask other people at that meeting, if you trust them, more than perhaps you do the person you had the antagonism with, if there's history there. You can talk to someone else, but make it specific. So you're saying, when I spoke to Linda, let's say, and Linda reacted in that way, what specifically could I have done to have had a better result in that particular situation? Very specific. Listen for the feedback. Now the feedback, the quality of the feedback is going to depend on the quality of the relationship you have with that person, and how much they trust you, and to what extent they become more, should we say, aware that you are welcoming this feedback, that you're not going to argue with them, you're not going to chuck it back at them, you're not going to say, oh, it's not like that, you've got it all wrong. You just accept it and deal with it in a mature way on your own. So the specific feedback can basically get you from the top left-hand quadrant of this model out to the lower right-hand quadrant with more influence and more impact, and not have to grow old in the process. You can just get on with it and move on. And it's for that reason that I like to choose this model, because it is absolutely so key to the way in which we develop, and it also gives us that wonderful perception of how important specific feedback is, and how we can use that to develop much faster than we would otherwise do just from experiencing.